So hello students, today we will be looking into another module known as social relationships, that's parents, teachers and peer group. The objectives of the module are: first one is to understand the importance of social relationships with parents, teachers and peer group, and to understand the theoretical framework and strategies to enhance social relationships. Can you just imagine your life without your parents, siblings, friends, teachers, relatives, no gadgets, and no one around except you? How does that make you feel? How would you be? What would your thoughts be? Who would teach you? How will you learn with no one around? At times you might feel very lonely, depressed, and might not even know how to communicate. You might long to interact with anyone that comes across you. And we as humans are born with a need to interact. No interaction, no growth. And this is where our social relations become very, very important. And social development refers to the long-term changes in relationships and interactions involving self, peers, family and teachers. It includes both positive changes such as how friendships develop and how negative changes such as aggression or bullying. The social developments that are the most obviously relevant to classroom life fall into three main areas. That is, the first one, changes in self-concept. That is how I see myself, good or bad, and in relationships among students and teachers. Second, changes in basic needs or personal motives. Why I do and for what. Why I have chosen this course and not another. And what is my intention in taking this course? Is it to help others or just because somebody has taken it or any other? And the third one is changes in sense of rights and responsibilities. So let's look into the Erik Erikson's psychosocial crisis of development. Erik Erikson developed a theory of social development that relies on stages, except that Erikson thought of stages as a series of psychological or social or psychosocial crises, that is, turning points in a person's relationships and feelings about himself or herself. And each crisis consists of a dilemma or choice that carries both advantages and risks, but in which one choice or alternative is normally considered more desirable or healthy. How one crisis is resolved affects how later crises are resolved. Erikson proposed 8 crises that extend from birth through old age. 4 of the stages occur during the school years and the other after those in the school years. So coming to in brief about psychosocial crisis, the first stage is trust versus mistrust, and that starts from birth to 1 year. It's development of trust between caregiver and child. And the second crisis is autonomy versus shame, that is the age from 1 year to 3 years, where the development of control over bodily functions and activities. And the third crisis is initiative versus guilt. Age is 3 to 6 years, testing limits of self-assertion and purposefulness. And the next one is industry versus inferiority, that is the age is from 6 years to 12 years. Development of sense of mastery and competence is enhanced. Identity versus role confusion, that is from 12 years to 19 years, where development of identity and acknowledge of identity by others. And the next stage is intimacy versus isolation, that is from 19 to 25 years, where formation of relationships and commitments. So the next stage is generativity versus stagnation, where the age is 25 years to 50 plus years, where there is development of creative or productive activities that contribute to future generations. Integrity versus despair, and this is the last stage where age starts from 50 plus and it's more of acceptance of personal life history and forgiveness of self and others almost from the day they are born. Infants face a crisis, that is either to trust or not to trust, and children are happiest if they can eat, sleep and excrete according to their own physiological schedules. Regardless of whether their schedules are convenient for the caregiver, that is often the mother. If a child's needs are met, then a child will learn to trust. If a child's needs are not met, child learns not to trust. Given a child's lack of experience in these activities, however, self-care is risky at first. The toddler may feed or toilet or dress clumsily and ineffectively. The child's caregiver, for her part, risks overprotecting the child and criticizing his early efforts unnecessarily and thus causing the child to feel shame for even trying. The child at a daycare center may now undertake, for example, to build the biggest city in the world out of all available unit blocks, even if other children want some of the blocks for themselves. The child's projects and desires create a new crisis of initiative and guilt because the child soon realizes that acting on impulses or desires can sometimes have negative effects on others. More blocks for the child may mean fewer for someone else. As with the crisis over autonomy, caregivers have to support the child's initiatives where possible, but also not make the child feel guilty just for desiring to have or to do something that affects others' welfare. By limiting behavior where necessary but not limiting internal feelings, the child can develop a lasting ability to take initiative. Teachers need to make true choices and initiatives possible and refrain from criticizing, even accidentally, a choice or intention behind an initiative, even if the teacher privately believes that it is bound to fail. And here comes our Abraham Maslow's theory. He has also given hierarchy of motives and needs. Nowadays, we come across many incidents of suicide, either children or adults. Why many are taking this extreme step? What is making one to take this extreme step? Somewhere, some need in their life is not met. Perfect family relationships and friendships are what an individual hopes for. Not having a good family relationship, support from loved ones, and good friends can make the individual feel lonely, which will not help him or her to satisfy his needs of love and belongingness. And to avoid problems such as loneliness, depression, and anxiety, it is important for us to have a healthy social life. Personal relationships with friends, family, and lovers play an important role so as being associated with other groups like religious groups, sports teams, book clubs, etc. And to understand this, we look at Maslow's theory. Abraham Maslow's theory frames personal needs or motives as a hierarchy, meaning that basic or lower level needs have to be satisfied before higher level needs become important or motivating. Maslow's theory distinguishes between two types of needs called deficit needs and being needs, or sometimes deficiency needs and growth needs. Deficit needs are the basic requirements of physical and emotional well-being. First are physiological needs, that is food, sleep, clothing and the like. A student who is not getting enough to eat is not going to feel much interest in learning. Once physiological needs are met, however, safety and security needs become important. The person looks for stability and protection and welcomes a bit of structure and limits if they provide these conditions. After physiological and safety needs are met, love and belonging needs emerge. The person turns attention to making friends, being a friend and cultivating positive personal relationships in general. In the classroom, a student motivated at this level may make approval from peers or teachers into a top priority. He or she may be provided for materially and find the classroom and family life safe enough, but still miss a key ingredient in life, that is love. If such a student or anyone else eventually does find love and belonging, however, then his or her motivation shifts again, this time to esteem needs. Now the concern is with gaining recognition and respect, and even more importantly, gaining self-respect. A student at this level may be unusually concerned with achievement. For example, though only if the achievement is visible or public enough to earn public recognition. When a student is motivated and appreciated, he or she tends to increase his or her academic performance as compared to the less motivated student. An excellent academic result will increase her recognition in the school and society, which will increase the confidence, respect and esteem of the student. Being needs are desires to become fulfilled as a person or to be the best person that you can possibly be. They include cognitive needs, that is a desire for knowledge and understanding, aesthetic needs, an appreciation of beauty and order, and most importantly self-actualization needs, a desire for fulfillment of one's potential. Being needs emerge only after all of a person's deficit needs have been largely met. Unlike deficit needs, being needs beget more being needs. They do not disappear once they are met, but create a desire for even more satisfaction of the same type. Now let us look at the third most important aspect, morality in social relationships. Morality is a system of beliefs about what is right and good compared to what is wrong and bad. Moral development refers to changes in moral beliefs as a person grows older and gains maturity. Moral beliefs are related to but not identical with moral behavior. It is possible to know the right thing to do but not actually do it. For example, suppose that you are teaching reading to a small group of second graders and the students are taking turns reading a story out loud. Should you give every student the same amount of time to read, even though some might benefit from having additional time? Or should you give more time to the students who need extra help, even if doing so bores classmates and deprives others of equal shares of floor time? Which option is more fair and which is more considerate? To understand this, we will look at Kohlberg's morality of justice. One of the best known explanations of how morality of justice develops was developed by Lawrence Kohlberg and his associates. Using a stage model similar to Piaget's, Kohlberg proposed 6 stages of moral development, which is grouped into 3 levels. Individuals experience the stages universally and in sequence as they form beliefs about justice. He named the levels simply pre-conventional, conventional and post-conventional. And also if you look at this picture, you have each stage preceding the other stage. So in each stage you have a sub-stage. And coming to the pre-conventional stage where you have obedience and mutual advantage. The pre-conventional level of moral development, the child is still relatively self-centered and insensitive to the moral effects of actions on others. The result is a somewhat short-sighted orientation to morality. Initially, Kohlberg stage 1, the child adopts an ethics of obedience and punishment, that is a sort of morality of keeping out of trouble. The rightness and wrongness of actions is determined by whether actions are rewarded or punished by authorities such as parents or teachers. If helping yourself to a cookie brings affectionate smiles from the adults, then taking the cookie is considered morally good. If it brings scolding instead, then it is morally bad. New ability creates stage 2, an ethics of market exchange. At this stage, the morally good action is one that favors not only the child but another person directly involved. In stage 1, young children are primarily motivated to behave appropriately simply to avoid being punished for misbehaving. By understanding this stage of moral development, teachers can help to guide their students' moral development by setting a code of conduct for the classroom to encourage good behavior. For young children, it is important to implement clear punishments such as loss of privileges for students who break the classroom rules. This could include taking away free choice time for students who break the rules. As they progress towards stage 2 of level 1, they will become more motivated to follow the rules if an enticing reward is offered. And next stage is your conventional justice, conformity to peers and society. As children move into the school years, their lives expand to include a larger number and range of peers and eventually of the community as a whole. The change leads to conventional morality, which are beliefs based on what this larger array of people agree on. At first, in stage 3, the child's reference groups are immediate peers, so stage 3 is sometimes called the ethics of peer opinion. If peers believe, for example, that it is morally good to behave politely with as many people as possible, then the child is likely to agree with the group and to regard politeness as not merely an arbitrary social convention but a moral good. Resolving the complexities lead to stage 4, the ethics of law and order, in which the young person increasingly frames moral behaviors in terms of what the majority of society believes. Most children reach stage 3 between the ages of 10 and 13. In this stage, children begin to think more about the other people around them. They consider how their behavior affects other people and how other people perceive them. At this stage, a teacher can help to strengthen students' moral character by allowing them to help teacher to create a code of conduct for the classroom. This lets the students be partially responsible for the classroom rules, which they will be expected to follow. And older students may begin to reach level 4 by the time they reach the end of middle school or the beginning of high school, allowing ample time for group projects and activities that give students at different stages of development the opportunity to work together and to learn how their behaviors affect others in a social context. Teachers can bridge this gap with the students and the other groups. Teachers can help to guide the moral characters of their students and help them to become the best they can be. And the last stage in Kohlberg is post-conventional justice. Social contract and universal principles are looked into. The new focus constitutes stage 5, that is the ethics of social contract. For example, the laws in some areas that require motorcyclists to wear helmets. In what sense are the laws about this behavior ethical? Was it created by consulting with and gaining the consent of the relevant people? Were cyclists consulted and did they give consent? Or how about doctors or the cyclists' families? Reasonably thoughtful individuals disagree about how thoroughly and fairly this consultation process should be. In focusing on the processes by which the law was created, however, individuals are thinking according to stage 5, the ethics of social contract, regardless of the position they take about wearing helmets. In this sense, beliefs on both sides of a debate about an issue can sometimes be morally sound even if they contradict each other. The realization that ethical means can sometimes serve unethical ends leads to some individuals towards stage 6, the ethics of self-chosen universal principles. At this final stage, the morally good action is based on personally held principles that apply both to the person's immediate life as well as to the larger community and society. Now we look at Gillian's morality of care. Would the late student be able to put more effort into the assignment than other students? Would the extension place a difficult demand on you since you would have less time to mark the assignments? These are important considerations related to the rights of students and the teacher. In addition to this, however, are considerations having to do with the responsibilities that you and the requesting students have for each other and for others. Does the student have a valid personal reason, that is illness, death in the family, etc., for the assignment being late? Will the assignment lose its educational value if the student has to turn it in prematurely? These later questions have less to do with fairness and rights and more to do with taking care of and responsibility of students. The three moral positions from Gillian's theory are Number 1, survival orientation, action that considers one's personal needs only. Second, conventional care, action that considers others' needs or preferences but not one's own. And the third, integrated care, action that attempts to coordinate one's own personal needs with those of others. Let's look at it briefly, these stages. First one, caring as survival. The most basic kind of caring is a survival orientation in which a person is concerned primarily with his or her own welfare. If a teenage girl with this ethical position is wondering whether to get an abortion, for example, she will be concerned entirely with the effects of the abortion on herself. The morally good choice will be whatever creates the least stress for herself and that disrupts her own life the least. Responsibilities to others, that is the baby, the father and her family, play little or no part in her thinking. And the next stage in conventional caring. A more subtle moral position is caring for others, in which a person is concerned about others' happiness and welfare and about reconciling or integrating others' needs where they conflict with each other. In considering an abortion, for example, the teenager at this position would think primarily about what other people prefer. Do the father, her parents, or her doctor want her to keep the child? The morally good choice becomes whatever will please others the best. This position is more demanding than position 1 or the stage 1, ethically and intellectually, because it requires coordinating several persons' needs and values. And the third stage in this is integrated caring. The most developed form of moral caring in Gillian's model is integrated caring, that is the coordination of personal needs and values with those of others. Now, the morally good choice takes account of everyone including oneself, not everyone except oneself. In considering an abortion, a woman at this position would think not only about the consequences of the father, the unborn child and her family, but also about the consequences of herself. How would bearing a child affect her own needs, values and plans? This perspective leads to moral beliefs that are more comprehensive, but ironically are also more prone to dilemmas. In classrooms, integrated caring is most likely to surface when teachers give students wide, sustained freedom to make choices. As every teacher knows, development is not that simple. A class of 25 or 30 students will contain 25 or 30 individuals, each learning and developing along distinct pathways. References to the student should not be understood, therefore, as supporting simple-minded stereotypes. They refer instead to common tendencies of real, live children and youth. Pointing to developmental changes is like pointing to a flock of birds in a flight. The flock has a general location, but individual birds also have their own locations and take their individual flight paths. And development and diversity in relation to others therefore have to be understood jointly and not separately. Let's look at the summary of the module. Understanding development or the long-term changes in growth, behavior and knowledge helps teachers to hold appropriate expectations for students as well as to keep students' individual diversity in perspective. Cognitively, students develop major new abilities to think logically and abstractly based on a foundation of sensory and motor experiences with the objects and people around them. Socially, students face and resolve a number of issues, especially the issue of industry, that's where dedicated sustained work during childhood, and the issue of identity during adolescence. Erik Erikson has described these crises in detail as well as social crises that precede and follow the school years. Students are motivated both by basic human needs, that is food, safety, belonging, esteem, and by needs to enhance themselves psychologically, that is self-actualization. And Abraham Maslow has described these motivations and how they relate to each other. Morally, students develop both a sense of justice and a care of others, and their thinking in each of these realms undergoes important changes as they mature. Lawrence Kohlberg has described changes in the children and youth's beliefs about justice, and Carol Gillian has described changes in their beliefs about care. And integrating all these can help one to gel well with peers, teachers and their parents, and also to have a healthy social relation.